Welcome back. Now, President Muhammadu Buhari during the week launched a new campaign aimed at bringing back the good virtues of integrity, honesty and patriotism to the nation. It is generally believed that the biggest problem confronting Nigeria today is corruption. It's a vice that is eating deep into the fabric of every sector of the Nigerian state, taking along millions into captive. Now, experts have said the people need a total rebirth and a new way of thinking to address the issue of corruption in the country. And it's not just corruption, of course. We're talking about other vices, other problems. Now, the campaign tagged Change Begins With Me is geared towards ensuring a holistic attitudinal change in Nigerians and restoring credible value system in what looks like a reply to those that have been criticizing his government. President Buhari at the event said, quote, "Before you ask where is the change they promised us, you must ask yourself, how far have I changed so far?" End of quote. Now, the president said his government is not under any illusion at all that change will happen overnight, and that if the country must change, everyone must also change. Take a listen to some of the things the president said during the launch of the campaign at the presidential villa.
It is safe to say today that honesty, hard work, godliness have given way to all kinds of manifestations of lawlessness and degeneration in our national life. This is why we have among our cardinal objectives change, which implies the need for a change of attitude and mindset in our everyday life. Every one of us must have a change from our old days of doing things. We cannot fold our arms and allow things to continue the old way. We must resist the temptation to fall back on the same partisanship, pettiness, and immaturity that have poisoned our country for so long. Let us summon a new spirit of responsibility, spirit of service, of patriotism and sacrifice. Let us all resolve to pitch in and work hard and look after not only ourselves but one another. What the current problem has taught us is that we cannot have a thriving army of rent seekers and vested interests while the majority suffers. Rather than sit back and complain endlessly, we have decided to act pragmatically with the launch of the National Reorientation Campaign. The campaign will not be a sprint, but a marathon that will run the course of our tenure. We are under no illusion that the changes we seek will happen overnight. But we have no doubt that the campaign will help restore our value system and rekindle our nationalistic fervor. I am therefore appealing to all Nigerians to be part of this campaign. Our students must realize that the change they want to see begins with them. If you have not seen the change in you, you cannot see it in others or even the larger society.
Now, there's no question at all that this is a beautiful campaign, but implementation will sure be the big issue. Some have already started insinuating that the idea is a design to bring back the War Against Indiscipline Brigade, an agency, of course, which was set up back in the 80s when Buhari was military head of state. But Minister of Information and Culture Lai Mohammed has been quick to dismiss that, noting that the campaign is not a replication now of the 1983 War Against Indiscipline, but a novel idea that will achieve the same goal using different method. And of course, people have also been reacting to the campaign itself. Let's take a listen now to what some people on the streets have been saying.
It's a very good scheme that I think is a long overdue scheme, a program that should have been introduced long ago. You know, you want to rule over a people. You see, a leadership is as good as the followership. A leadership is as good as the followership. Just like a goalkeeper in a football game is as good as the defense. If you have a very porous defense, a goalkeeper is likely to concede many goals in a football match. So it's the defender that shields the goalkeeper from unnecessary shots from strikers. That's the same thing leadership is about. A leader has to have the people he's governing following in his programs, understanding what he's trying to do.
We are talking of changes that in policy that will have impact on the common man. If there is no change in those areas, there is no way a common man can even change. That is what I believe. So they must have change in policies, in terms of implementation of policy, in terms of execution of policies, and in terms of evaluation of policies. If those things can be done, then an average Nigerian can have a change. They can change themselves. Even if the government is not campaigning for the change itself, the people naturally they will change.
If change must happen in this country, the government, those who lead, will have to lead first before the citizens will follow. Saying that change begins with me, how does that really work? For example, I have a program which I feel will improve education in Nigeria. How can I enforce it? Am I the Minister of Education? Am I I'm a permanent secretary? There are policy makers.
The greatest setback Nigeria has today in this modern world is the mindset of Nigerians, myself inclusive. And until we are able to go through a reorientation process, that mindset of it has to work my way, it has to be the way it has been done, the traditional ways of doing things.
Mr. Onyekachi Ubani, who is a lawyer and, of course, a political analyst. Mr. Ubani, thank you very much for coming on the program.
My pleasure, Deji.
I keep asking myself, at what point did we derail from our core values as Africans? Because you look at our traditional values, they're actually rich. But there's no question at all that we've actually derailed. So at what point do you think we derailed? And do you think a campaign like this can actually fix things?
Well, I think it may be a combination of many factors. I grew up in Nigeria, and I also was brought up in the village, and I knew the time that some core values, were entrenched and practiced. I have watched a situation where somebody who says banana, we bring the banana out, and she's not there physically to examine and watch over the banana that she's selling, but somebody who wants to buy banana will just pick the banana and put the money there without anyone watching, without any enforcement agency watching around the banana itself. I've seen that happen. I have seen in the village where a young girl got pregnant, and because she got pregnant, she hid herself for almost 1 month. Because everyone,
because of the
stigma. I witnessed all that, or that you are involved in stealing and you are caught in the marketplace. You went, there. Oh my God, the entire village will know about it, and you can't even walk on the street. I've seen things like this, but over time, as a result of military incursion, as a result of degeneration of our cultural values, I've seen things now that everyone does whatever he feels like doing. Just like where it was reported in the Bible, that it got to a stage that people were no longer, obeying God, and they were doing everything that seemed good, right in their eyes. We got to a stage like that in Nigerian life, that everything now is now talking about Nigerian style, Nigerian standard. Nigerian way of doing things, no longer a proper way of doing things. So when you talk about Nigerian standard, it means a fake standard, not a normal standard, not an international standard. And so we keep on degenerating because one, the leaders were not living by example. They were not showing good example. The followers start misbehaving, and then there is no, ethos. There is no national value that this is a standard. We must not go below this and all that. So, in the absence of a national standard, in the absence of a national ethos, everyone, started to do whatever he feels is right, in his own side. So, I think the military incursion and then deterioration in educational, sector. And then even the religious people also, we are not helping matters. And parental failure too. And it's a combination of many factors.
It seems to be an irony that this is a very religious country, and yet this is a country where values, the right values and morals, if you like, are lacking. I mean, how do you juxtapose that? It's just, I don't know how to put it now. It's just, it's quite ironic.
They worship me with their mouth, but their heart is far away from. It's there in the Bible too, where people make so much noise about God, called God, several times, but there's no godliness in them. So you can call God, you can go to church, you can have all the churches all over the place, have membership, so large. But when it comes to issue of knowing who God is, because Bible itself says, those who know me shall be very strong.
I think it's important what you're saying, because, I mean, you look at, for instance, let's talk about corruption.
Yes.
Who are the people who are accused of
religious people?
These are people who go to church, they go to mosque. I mean,
they are not carnal people. They are not even people you call traditional worshippers. If you watch all our political leaders, this person is a Muslim, is a Christian, and they go to church. And they are known in the church, they are known in the mosque. But you see all manner of things they do, the kind of money they steal. They want to empty the entire treasury. I mean, you begin to wonder, how much can you spend? How many beds do you sleep in? And how many cars can you ride at a time? So they don't even consider God in all these things.
How then do you think this campaign can address?
Yes,
let's look at the campaign now.
Yeah, things like this, we must do what you call
introspection.
We must examine, because the unexamined life actually is not worth living. Now that we have come to the level where we have discovered that we are so lawless, that things have not been moving in the right direction, and we're not making progress as a nation.
We install street lights,
yes.
We install traffic lights.
Traffic lights, and
then we still have to put policemen at the traffic lights to enforce.
Yeah, why? Well, abroad they don't, but they have the machine, they have the cameras. So if you disobey, you get the bill.
We erect pedestrian bridges. We still have
to have car to enforce. Fine.
People to cross.
That's how human beings are. That is how human beings, even abroad. But the point is the level of enforceability. If not enforceability, the typical white man can also disobey the law and behave with impunity. But the only difference is that they enforce their own laws. That is the difference. So the human nature is to disobey, to be rebellious. But then a society must build a structure, build an institution that is very strong.
You would say in terms of enforcement,
no, we are failed. And that's why we need to come back to our senses, with campaign like this and say the change begins with me, actually. That's why the white man has gotten it right. Over time they have, they don't go to church, but they have this basic understanding. The human basic nature, that you must be honest and all that. I've lost my passport, my money, $5,000 in the US, and almost 1 hour before I realized that I've lost. And I came back to the same shop, and it was there for me, my camera, my passport. And I got them back. I've also lost things in UK, and I got them back. But you can't lose things here in any person's shop in Nigeria, most people. And you get there, and then the thing will be there for you. They will go and call police for you for even coming to ask them. What I'm saying is that basically they don't go to church. They're not too church conscious, but they know the human nature, that the attributes that we should have, and that is over time taught by parents, taught in schools, and taught by society. So it's important we now begin to do this introspection and say we've gotten it wrong. Can we go back to our senses and say, look, what am I supposed to do? The change should start with me. The change should start with me as a leader. It should start with me even as a follower. So all of us begin to change, even the government themselves, because we talk about change. This is a government that came on the premise of change. We need to see change in behavior. We need to see them cutting down their expenditure. 1 billion for Asorok. No, this year is going to be 1 million. Or it's going to be 100 million, But that, you say, because you are saying we must change. Corruption, you give us phone numbers to call in case there is any person committing corruption in any agency. You call. You must also enforce. You must also have somebody monitoring.
Enforcement is very key.
Without monitoring, okay, we're talking about change begins with me, and I go to a civil servant, to push a file. I want my document to be signed, and the person is there demanding for me to pay money. Who do I report to? And if I report to somebody, what
is action taken?
Beautiful. It's when those things are being done, then you can find out that these things can, disappear. I'm talking about vices. But when there is no enforcement, as long as there is no punishment to crime and sin, it will escalate. So what will happen in this country is that we don't punish crime, we don't punish offenses. Rather, we give excuses.
So it's just not enough to
it's not enough. It's not enough. The campaign, there must be an enforcement unit. Somebody reports, oh, who did this? And then the leader themselves must be averse to crime and to corruption. The leader himself must be averse to it. That's where it gets right. Because when in the office somebody comes to report to you as a leader, I'm this, commissioner of police, and somebody comes to me and say the DPO has done this. You now pick up your phone and find out what has actually happened, and then punish that DPO. If you find out it's culpable, I tell you that other DPOs will fall in line. So it's about leadership, it's about correction, it's about enforcement, and all these things are lacking. And that's why we're having issue with with us as a nation. So governance. So the president has started, kickstarted something that is very commendable, something that is worthy. But how far can we go? Because they were not even specific as to the method of driving this information to the grassroots.
Well, basically, they say they're going to use the media.
Yes.
That they're going to flood the media with the campaign.
Okay. I hope it gets to all the nooks and crannies, because it's important to get to the villages. Start even with the children in primary schools, in nursery schools. Let's begin to teach them virtue. Virtue is very important. This is the virtue of honesty, virtue of hard work. You begin to. And it must be a well packaged program. I don't know whether the minister has actually thought this thing through and sit down and plan this program, and then who agencies is going to use secondary, use universities, use all the civil societies. Let's begin to drive in the churches, in the mosque. If I wish, there are certain persons that can plan these things very well and make sure that every strata is affected. It's not a question of making noise in Abuja and that's the end of the matter. Change begins with me, and tomorrow you won't hear about it anymore. Okay. But I think that they must structure it well. That it gets to the universities, it gets to the secondary schools, to the churches, to the mosque. We have all the agencies that will begin to, in my own office, as lawyers, you begin to pray that the change begins with me.
Yeah, you're absolutely
That's
correct.
the way how to go about it.
Mr. Bani, thank you very much for coming on the
Appreciate
program.
you,
Thank you very much for your contributions. We'll take a short break now. When we come back, we'll be discussing something else. Every day, every hour, and every minute, news break in Nigeria. Things happen so fast, it's most times difficult to track and comprehend them. But that's what we do right here on DEJI360. 2015, would you want to come back again?
It's like asking Jesus Christ if he knew he was going to die, will you want to come back as the savior of the world again?
We do not just help you track the stories, we break them down, explore all the angles, analyze the issues so that you can fully comprehend the stories and use them to make the right decisions.